Hey, Ben, we're live.
Whoa. Oh my God. I was reading texts from various guests going, could you excuse me if I'm a little late? What am I supposed to do, D? Give me advice, huh? Do I crack the whip?
Oh, dude, it's a pandemic. Let them be a little late.
All right,
Right?
hold on. Oh, it's fine with me. There you go.
Broadcast it in your attic with a porta potty outside. Let it slide a little bit.
That's a good point.
How's it going, everybody? Your Ben Joravsky show for Thursday, October 15th is just moments away. But before we do this, let's thank the following unions for sponsoring this podcast. Unions like the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, they're sponsors. The International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150, hey, thanks, they're sponsors. As well as our dear friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Shout out to Bob Ryder. Hope you're doing well. All right, Ben, let's get today going here. You have a song of the day. Oh man, you are going to be boogieing here. Comes from Frank. Get Down Tonight by Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Get down, get down, get down, get down, get down tonight, baby. Whoa, 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 whoa. Boom, boom, boom. Get down. Woo, yeah, all right.
Oh my God, are you okay?
Hold on, man. Just coughing, not COVID. Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Yes, feeling better already.
All right, the Ben Joravsky show starts now. It is Thursday, October 15th. And yeah, live from my apartment and his attic, this is the Ben Joravsky show. Today on the program, it's election lawyer and resident foul-mouthed sailor, Adolfo Mondragon. And now your host, on occasion, a foul-mouthed sailor, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Trump Appeal Thursday, and here's why. But D, before I do that, let me go shut this door. Hold on 1 second, Wow. I've never done this before.
Oh, shut the door, please. Oh, my goodness. Hey, everybody, we've got a great show planned for you today. Election lawyer Adolfo Mondragon will be joining us. He's going to be talking all things the presidential election. I'm sure he's going to be talking about Coney Barrett. He's an election lawyer. I'm sure he's got a great opinion on that. And a lot of local news coming up. Ben, did you shut that door?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do that. Just to bolt away from the microphone in the middle of a show. Go, let's just try it differently today. Anyway, it really annoyed me that door was open, so I shut it. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. Trump Appeal Thursday, and here's why. Jimmy Dore made a direct appeal to Donnie Trump. It happened on the Tucker Carlson show just the other day. I know this because the good doctor alerted me to it. So, Dr. D, take a bow. Is that a good producer or what, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Crowd going, oh my God, they're chanting his name. Dr. D. Dr. D. And now there's a second chant. Not a doctor. Not a doctor. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. A few explanations about Tucker Carlson and Jimmy Dore. As you know, Tucker Carlson is the far right wing personality on Fox TV. His show is exceedingly popular with MAGA, including Mr. MAGA himself, Donald Trump. Donnie watches it all the time. In contrast, Jimmy Dore is a Chicago-born and raised comedian who is of the far left of center persuasion, to put it mildly. He goes so far left that at some points he winds up meeting with the far right of center thinkers. By the way, this happens a lot. I mean, I shouldn't say a lot, D, but it's been known to happen. Like the far left goes so far left that they end up meeting the right, or the right goes so far right that they end up meeting the left. For a while, this even happened with me on TIFs and financial issues where I was always rambling and ranting, still am, by the way. That could be foreshadowing of something that's going to happen later in the show. Stand by, everybody. But where all of a sudden some right-wing Republicans would go, this guy is a commie hippie, but he's right about TIFs. I was like, oh, thanks, guys. Wherever it comes from. Anyway, it's like that with Jimmy Dore and some aspects of the far right on issues like, I'll just give you one example, the endless wars in the Middle East, They were against them on the impeachment of Donald Trump. Jimmy Dore, like the right, thought it was a bogus waste of time, and Tulsi Gabbard, everybody loved her. And yet where Jimmy Dore really differs from the right, of course, is on social issues, economic issues. Jimmy Dore is a Bernie Sanders-like radical who knows that in this system, the only real rigging that's going on is the rigging that basically divvies up the pie so that the rich get the apples and that delicious, crunchy stuff on top, and the poor get the crumbs. Don't you love the delicious, crunchy stuff on the top of an apple pie, D?
Yeah. Crumbs are all right, too, I guess.
Yes. I'd rather have the apples. Anyway, back in the good old days, Dennis and I would listen to the Jimmy Dore show as we drove home from the studio. Remember those good old days, D?
Yeah.
Driving in the car, and every now and then we'd put on Jimmy Dore, and he'd be ranting and railing, and I'd be like, oh, that's good. I think I'll use that line for the show yesterday and not give him any credit for it. That's not true, Jimmy. I always try to give you credit for it. Anyway, Jimmy went on the Tucker Carlson show the other day, and he made a direct appeal to Donald Trump. And he put it just like that. He goes, I know you're watching, Mr. President, because he probably was. Although I wonder with the COVID if Donald Trump's TV watching views have changed anyway, D. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you think he's like sleeping more and watching less TV? Who knows? Who knows what's really going on? Who knows if he really had COVID? Ooh. Anyway, he put it right out there. He goes, I know you're watching, Mr. President, so here's what you should do. And then he advised President Trump to order Mitch McConnell and all the other legislative Republicans to cut a deal with Nancy Pelosi in which they agreed to double the stimulus because people are out of work and they can't pay their bills. And in many cases, they can't even afford food. And they're really hurting. So if you want to help people, double the stimulus, get the money flowing in the economy again. Jimmy said all this. He said it right there on the Tucker Carlson show. He said it directly to Trump. And Tucker Carlson they had the split screen. You know how they do that, where Jimmy be ranting, give him the money, double the stimulus, do it now. And then they would show Tucker Carlson. He had this little smile.
Oh, that's the classic Tucker Carlson who farted look.
Yeah, I find it a really annoying smile. I'm just sharing that with you. It's like, oh, God, this weirdo lefty. Look at him. It's a little condescending, Tucker. I'm just saying, all right? I don't think you smile like that when some right-wingers on there gassing on about how great MAGA is. You're like, oh, I agree. But with Jimmy Dore, it's like, oh, you squishy little bleeding heart liberal, but you're still my friend. But the thing, what if it works? What if Trump buys into it? I mean, right now, the standard opposition that Republicans articulate for not increasing the stimulus or not even sending out checks is because it would discourage people from working, out of work people from going to work. Well, I mean, come on. That's like, nobody believes that. I mean, Donald Trump has been feeding off the trough for years. I don't know if Donald Trump's ever done an honest day of work. So I know Donald Trump doesn't believe that. I mean, he doesn't even pay taxes. So I'm like, that's just something they throw out there to justify having to spend less money on poor people and middle-class people and working-class people and having more money to spend on themselves. That's all it is, folks. I mean, they don't actually believe what they say, right? I know you guys are too smart to do that, right? So Donald Trump doesn't really believe that there's any value to society by withholding aid to poor people. It's just like the more money that he gives to poor people, the less money he has to give to rich people. So that's why he's against it. But what if Jimmy Dore appealed to Trump's vanity by saying, like he did, you would win. We'd be cheering you on if you did this. Trump cares about himself, number one. He might think, my God, I'd be a hero. Like the Bernie people would be cheering me. And it would be like Bernie people and MAGA people all coming together and they would love me. And by the way, let's not pretend that this hasn't worked in the past, appealing to Trump's vanity and his sense of victimhood and his need to feel adulation. It worked for a certain Rod Blagojevich. Blago. If you remember, Blago was doing time in the federal prison for trying to sell Senator Obama's Senate seat. Blago was the public enemy number one for Republicans in Illinois. He was the Republicans love to position as the number one reason you should never, ever, ever vote Democrat. Up and down the state, they tried. Remember, at the early stages of J.B. Pritzker's campaign, Bruce Rauner unveiled the Blago Pritzker tapes to like connect Pritzker to Blago, and Pritzker was really scary. That's my imitation of you doing Blago. I mean, Pritzker, not a very good imitation, I admit it. And Pritzker was like running away from the issue. And then Blago and his wife Patty began appealing to Trump.
I'm a Trumpocrat. The Trumpocrat, that's right.
Stole my thunder. I was going to get to that. And Blago, they started appealing to Trump, and they started saying, just like you, Donnie, we're being set up by the same diabolical forces of the deep state that unfairly went after you. They unfairly went after us. And Trump like, yeah, that's right. They're picking on him like they picked on me. And he let Blago out of prison. And Blago went on the stump for Trump, called him himself a Trumpocrat.
I'm a Trumpocrat. The Trumpocrat, that's right.
My favorite part of that is the guy in the background. Time and time, I never tired of him. Trumpocrat. That's right. That guy's a Trumpocrat too. Anyway, now you got Blago showing up at Republican fundraisers. And no Republican in Illinois trashes him anymore. Every now and then, like you'll find some old guy like Jim Durkin. Oh, this is just not good. But he just kind of keeps that to himself because MAGA loves Blago. Hell, you know what? Here's my suggestion, D. I think Blago should run for governor again as a Republican.
Oh, whoa.
I think Blago should be the gubernatorial candidate the Republicans put up to run against JB in 2022. I do that, but now you're probably going to get all lawyer-like on me, D. I know you. I can see it.
I'm so lawyer-like. You know me so well. I was going to get very lawyer-like on you.
Like, Ben, is he even eligible as a felon who served time? I don't know. Look up in the law books and read it. You know, let's say he is. You'll find some lawyer to figure out how to get him around that. I think you should run, Blago, run, Blago, run. That would be fun to watch. Wouldn't it be, D? Blago versus JB, only Blago running as a Republican. And all those Republicans who trashed him all those years will be like, I really like Blago. Trump could come to Illinois and stump for Rod. You know, the Republicans pretty much do what Trump tells them anyway. So if they can flip on Blago, they can certainly flip on their silly little reason for not doling out stimulus checks. Their reason that says that somehow that'd be a deterrent to people to go get jobs, even as jobs are being cut. So, you know, Jimmy Dore, I think it's a good idea. My hat's off to Jimmy Dore for trying to get Donald Trump to do the right thing by appealing to his vanity. As Malcolm X once said, by any means necessary. We got a great show today, everybody. Yes, indeed, Adolfo Mondragon will be here. Pride and Joy, the back of the yards. We'll be talking Amy Coney Barrett. And I took a page from the great Dave Glowatz, D.
Hey now.
I gathered key portions of Amy Coney Barrett's testimony, which some of it which is absolutely unbelievable that she would say the things she said and believe it. I give her credit for not laughing out loud at some of the things she said, you know, pretending as though I am a blank slate. I've not made my mind up on any of the issues. I will not make any comment on any issue. I must study it. And I could be changed. It's all how the issues are framed and the facts are put out. Yeah, okay, Amy, whatever you say. Anyway, we'll be talking about that. By the way, before we get to the news, do you have to say this? Dear friend of mine, young Joshua, the pride and joy of Hyde Park, a former graduate of Ray Elementary School in the south side of Chicago, was very kind enough to send me a podcast, Al Franken podcast. Did you know Al Franken had a podcast, D?
No, I did not.
I didn't know either. So I listened to it. And what Al Franken was doing, he was listing all the questions that he would ask Amy Coney Barrett if he was still a senator and was still in the Judicial Committee. And it was entertaining stuff. And there were some really good questions. and including this one incredible hypothetical he set up, in which he took his time to set it up. It's one of those things you could tell where Franken really knew how the game was played. So you ask a series of questions that get her, to get her to this point rhetorically where she must confront the sucker punch. And so the question is, if you believe that we should not harvest stem cells for either to fight diseases or for pregnancies, if you really believe that, and you believe that's human life that's being killed, if there was a fire and there was a building with a store with stem cells, and I'm really blowing this one, and another one with one child, who would you save? I was like, whoa, what a tricky philosophical conundrum for Amy Coney Barrett. Good job, Al Franken.
Yeah, but does he do sound effects?
No,
yeah, exactly.
Hey, Josh, I got to tell you, no sound effects from no funny voices from Al Franken. It was being a clown that got Al Franken in trouble. So now he's getting kicked out of the Senate.
Oh, so you won't be hearing any cat out of the bag on the Al Franken podcast.
No, you won't hear.
Yeah, take that, Franken.
He's got his own podcast though, and he has a sponsor. D.
Oh, Jesus!
At the start of the show, it's like it's a company that produces something that you could clean your phones with. Why did we get that guy? I'm always cleaning my phone. And he did the voiceover himself. Hi, I'm Al Franken, and I'm here to tell you about Clean Your Phone service. Your phone get dirty? Does your phone cause people to get COVID? Well, just clean it.
Just clean your phone. Does your phone get dirty?
It's actually not a bad Al Franken imitation. But you notice I went right away to the sound effects.
Yeah.
Al Franken clearly didn't spend the better part of his adolescent years in his room with a transistor radio up against his ear, listening to Dick Orkin. Anyway, D, enough on Al Franken. Thank you very much, Josh, for sending it to me. I really appreciated it. Before we go any further, before we bring on Adolfo, the young man from Alton, the man that Al Franken loves to call Dr. Doobie, with the news.
Hey, guys, I'm Dennis. Let's find out what's happening in Chicago and/or Illinois this afternoon. A 2020 Illinois general election candidate update is coming up. But Ben Joravsky, we need to talk about the latest update on Eddie-gate. And yes, that would be the time when Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson became former Chicago Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson after a video was released of him passed out and intoxicated in his vehicle. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times, Fran Spielman, and Sam Charles. Chicago Police Superintendent David Brown has ordered a series of disciplinary actions to punish 5 Chicago police officers accused of engaging in a widespread cover-up to protect then Superintendent Eddie Johnson and conceal the circumstances surrounding the drinking and driving incident that got Johnson fired. The harshest penalty, a 28-day suspension, goes to Deering District Don Jerome, Commander. There we go. Deering District Commander Don Jerome. His district covers the 3400 block of South Aberdeen, where Johnson was found slumped over in his police SUV around 12:30 a.m. on October 17th, 2019, after dismissing his driver and trying to drive home. 4 other officers who responded to the scene received lesser suspensions. The most severe of those penalties, a 21-day suspension, was reserved for a lieutenant, the next highest-ranking officer involved. They are all accused of giving their boss a pass by failing to administer a field sobriety test that would have been required of any other impaired motorist, giving Johnson a police escort home and watching the superintendent violate traffic laws on the way home without issuing a single citation. One officer facing disciplinary action is believed to be the woman Johnson promoted to his security detail shortly after becoming the city's top cop. That woman spent 3 hours drinking with Johnson the night of October 17th, 2019 at Ceres Cafe, home of the big giant drinks. From the nearby Chicago Board of Trade. Ben, your thoughts on the latest updates on Eddie-gate?
Well, Wow, where do I start? Let me start with a point I feel I must make because it's. I never thought these words would come out of my mouth. They may have come out of my mouth already, so. But I'll say it again. I cannot believe I am in agreement with John Catanzara on this one. Pretty much in agreement. John Catanzara is the far right MAGA hat wearing love Donald Trump to death, president of the Fraternal Order of Police. He loves Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen. He loves Donald Trump more than I love the Chicago Bulls, if such a thing is possible. Anyway, Catanzara and I see eye to eye on this one to a large degree. Pete Cunningham and I see eye to eye on this one. I have never understood the public pillaring of Eddie Johnson. And I've said this before. The guy stepped in to do a very difficult job at a very rough time in Chicago, right after Rahm Emanuel, Gary McCarthy released the Quan McDonald video. And we all realized that the story, the rendition of facts in that shooting that the city was offering was contradicted by what we saw on the videotape. And we suddenly realized that the mayor of Chicago, for whatever reasons, and he's never been forced to really own up to those reasons, was concealing evidence of a murder. And so nothing has really changed. Everything changed from that moment, politically speaking. It was that moment basically that led to Lori Lightfoot's victory as mayor, Kim Foxx's victory as state's attorney, the movement for criminal justice change. I would even argue that the movement for legalizing marijuana and ending the war on drugs, or at least ending that aspect of the war on drugs, emanated from that moment on. And Eddie Johnson stepped into the fray at that very moment to try to be the police chief that could be someone that was respected by rank and file, that felt very paranoid and persecuted, and also represent Black communities in the city of Chicago that were outraged by years and years of police brutality. He did that job. He took that challenge, and I thought he did it admirably. And I appreciated him for stepping up at that moment. And what was his reward, D? Lori Lightfoot threw him under the bus, drove over the bus, backed up and drove over it again because he'd been out drinking. And he lied about it. Apparently, he was out drinking with a woman who was not his wife and was seen making out with her. Boy, did they have a field day throwing him under the bus with that one, D. Just showed you how Chicago is, man. Just like the song said, I saw a man, he danced with his wife. Chicago's shocked that Eddie Johnson was at a bar drinking with a woman who was not his wife. Man, they just really just put that guy's business out there. There you go, Eddie. Thanks for being such a great police chief. Now we're going to humiliate you. And everybody's looking so self-righteous when they fire him. I'm outraged. Now the outrage is continuing. So here's the deal. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, in a perfect world, when those police officers saw Eddie Johnson slump behind the wheel, they should have, at the very least, not allowed him to drive home. I definitely think that should have been the case. But let's be real, ladies and gentlemen. He's their boss. Who among you is going to tell your boss, get out of the car, boss, and I'm going to give you a sobriety test, boss. Remember the sobriety test? I think it was the Steve Martin movie, The Jerk. Did you ever see that one day where they make him juggle?
Oh, yeah.
They make him hop. He's like, God, you have some tough sobriety tests here. It's a funny little aside. But who's going to do that? I know you go, oh, Ben, come on. We should set the highest standards. I don't know one person. I can't think of one person who would challenge their boss. Most people, when they see their boss, are like, oh, boss, you're looking really good today. You know? Remember that gag we used to do when we have a boss come on the show, D? Hey, D, put the bong away. Put the pizza cartons away. So, what a joke. Chicago gets all Dudley Do-Right at moments like that when they want to look good, you know, like, oh, yeah. I can't think of one lawyer in corporate Chicago that would take a stand against his boss. You know, all these, like, I can't think of one civically, they all line up. I mean, that's really a Chicago thing. Ed Burke, sleazy lawyer who ran the finance committee for years and years, was the guy who was the gatekeeper, doled out all the contracts. Everybody knew he's up to no good with that property tax appeal business. Everybody knew what was going on, and yet they showered him with praise. Remember, D? There was those first stories that were breaking about how he was getting in trouble, and there was still a long line of people showing up to give him money. Republicans, too. Don't act like you're above it, Republicans. You are hiring his firm to curry his favor, and you do it with Madigan as well. And then you pretend, oh, this is outrageous. I'm just shocked that they didn't give a sobriety test to their boss. Not one member of Civic Chicago or corporate Chicago has ever stepped out of line to criticize the ongoing corruption of the people in power. Oh, they always go after some nephew in the basement who has no power. You know, some like low-level precinct captain. Oh, this is terrible. We should not be shaking down businesses. Throw them in jail. Maybe an alderman or two gets thrown in jail. But with real power, so, you know, like these sacrifices where we're supposed to feel real good. Joe Ferguson, the Inspector General, issues this report. Mayor Lori Lightfoot, here. Let's throw these cops under the bus. I can't think of any of them who ever spoke out. They were all silent. Richard M. Daley sold off the parking meters. I didn't hear a word out of him. Took a $10 billion asset, sold it for $1 billion, not one word. Now they want to throw these cops under the bus. So sorry, D. I'm not going to join that little mob. And by the way, when are they going to release the full report? You know, you're going to hold these police officers accountable? When are you going to release the full report so we know what's going on? For some reason, they're not releasing the report. I don't get that. So Canizero said many of the same things. Here's his quote in the Sun-Times. Somehow or other, by the way, D, the Sun-Times refrained from putting his picture in. You know, they love putting his picture in there, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, they had to have that old picture of Eddie Johnson slumped behind him.
Oh, yeah, they had to put that one in there, huh?
Yeah, let's throw Eddie under and drive over him a little more. Anyway, here's Canizaro's quote. Here are officers who in Monday morning quarterback fashion are being accused of not treating a superintendent like they would anybody else. They theoretically, in these people's mind, gave him a pass, and shame on them, and they should be published, the FOP president said. You know, the funny thing is Canizero had it in for Eddie Johnson. This is part of the reason I like Eddie Johnson. Eddie Johnson joined Father Pfleger in the march, Jesse Jackson in the march, the Dan Ryan, trying to draw attention. You know, it's so funny, MAGA. You're all over the map on this one. D, you really got me going here. MAGA is always like, whenever there's protests against a police officer for shooting a black person, MAGA always says, well, why don't you complain about the black on black violence in your neighborhoods? Well, in 2019, Eddie Johnson joined with Father Pfleger and Reverend Jesse Jackson was there to march to close down the Dan Ryan Expressway. And Canizero filed a complaint against Johnson, thought it was outrageous. So it's like, wait, I thought MAGA, I thought you wanted activists to draw attention to crime in the neighborhood. I thought that's what you want. Hey, you're all over the map, MAGA. Let's be honest. You don't want anything except a tool that you can use to defeat Democrats and reelect Donnie Trump. Anyway, I was supposed to be accentuating what I see eye to eye with John Catanzaro on. And so I agree with them. I think that these cops are the sacrificial lambs, get thrown out by powers that be that would never in a million years blow the whistle on their boss. That's what I think, D.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. Like, you know, they're just bringing all the things that have gone down since then, you know, the pandemic, the protest, everything. Oh, hey, you guys that were helping out Johnson, yeah, you get back here. We're not going to let you forget about that. It's just funny what you know, they choose to, you know, care about and put, you know, more time on. Like that Van Dyke guy. How long did that take for him to finally, you know?
Well, he never would have been prosecuted if Rahm Emanuel wasn't forced kicking and screaming to release the video. That's a good point. They'd have buried that. Everything changed when that video was released. Everything changed when that Cook County judge ruled against Rahm in the Freedom of Information lawsuit that forced Rahm to release that video. Good God, that was almost, I'll do the math, 5 years ago. It was around Thanksgiving of 2015. So yeah, everything has changed. Eddie Johnson, man, you're welcome for your service. We're going to humiliate you a little more.
All right, in other news, Illinois really likes smoking weed. And the following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Tommy Two Joints Shuba. State officials have announced this week that Illinois has tallied more than $100 million in tax revenues during the first 8 months cannabis was fully legalized. With pot businesses deemed essential in the wake of the coronavirus outbreak, recreational cannabis sales have continued to rise in recent months. Those sales hit a new monthly high of more than $67 million in September, bringing the total sales to more than $431 million since January. Between January and August, recreational weed sales brought in nearly $70 million in revenues through the state's Cannabis Regulation Fund and an additional $36 million from state and local taxes. That is from the Illinois Department of Revenue. Ben Joravsky, your thought here. Boy, Illinois, is everybody smoking pot.
Oh, yeah, here's a shocker. People love reefer. Whoa. Whoa. People love reefer. They love it. They were smoking it all these years. Black people were getting thrown into jail for doing it. White people were doing it. So now they legalized it. We'll get into, guys, I'm not going to let this one go. We're going to get into the legalization of marijuana, how they're screwing that up. They legalize it, and people are rushing in the middle of pandemic, D. I need some reefer to deal with life, because life sucks, okay? I need that high, that blissful feeling, and now I'm going to watch Cheech and Chong up and smoke and laugh. Sorry, D. That's old stuff. Nobody watches Cheech and Chong anymore.
You're kidding me. Cheech and Chong are classic. A lot of people still watch Cheech and Chong.
I love Cheech and Chong.
Now that thing where you go, huh? Nah, no one's watching that anymore. Whatever that's from. What's that called?
Adrian Schreiber.
Yeah, no one's watching that.
Can I just say I watched one of those on YouTube the other day? But in my defense, I also watched like an hour of George Carlin. I was really feeling George Carlin. It was like, I think it was all the Bill Burr stuff. Bill Burr based. Let's be honest, D. Bill Burr owns, and I say this in all due respect. I love Bill Burr. You know, I think he's really talented, but he owes so much to George Carlin.
I think it's a lot of comedians.
Yeah, but Bill Burr in particular. Anyway, so, you know, I was thinking about Bill Burr. Like, let me watch George Carlin. I started watching that thing he did on abortion, and so good, man, on the right to lifers. I was like, God, I miss you, George Carlin.
Oh, and about those recreational cannabis licenses that for some reason can only be obtained by rich white people. Well, guess what? Another really rich white person is looking to get one of those licenses. The following comes from the Greek freak himself, WBEZ's Dan Mihalopoulos. For nearly 3 years, Jeffrey Rayburger, probably pronouncing that wrong, Jeffrey Rayburger has fought the state of Illinois' attempts to take away his company's lucrative video gambling license. Gambling regulators say Rayburger's Lucky Lincoln Gaming violated state law, doing business in a way that would discredit or tend to discredit the Illinois gaming industry or the state of Illinois. They also allege that Rayburger engaged in, quote, witness harassment to try to get a former sales representative to change his testimony against him in an Illinois Gaming Board investigation. But those big licensing problems with the gaming board did not prevent old Rayburger from putting himself in prime position to cash in on the huge new state regulated bonanza, cannabis dispensary licenses.
Unbelievable.
Despite the state's long-running efforts to close down Lucky Lincoln, another company led by Rayburger has emerged as one of only 21 applicants deemed qualified to split the 75 new state licenses for pot shops. That decision by officials regulating the licensing process has prompted heated criticism, with losing bidders and some Illinois lawmakers alleging the process has been secretive and unfair to minorities. But the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, which is overseeing the dispensary licenses, already says Rayburger's application was strong enough to meet the agency's highest standards. He was strong enough, Ben.
Special emphasis on highest standard.
Oh, man. You have been watching Carlin. All right. IDF PR officials announced on September 3rd that Rayburger's Fortunate Son Partners LLC would have a chance at winning licenses in 17 of 18 regions of the state, where officials plan to spread out the new dispensary. So we're learning more and more about how this process went down, Ben.
Yes, we are. And I urge everybody to check out the interview we dropped this weekend with Michael Malcolm, who is an applicant and for a license, didn't get one, and has his own blog dealing with the issue and knows a lot about it. No, this is like a routine out of George Carlin would have had a field day with this. And I can't say it enough. And I don't think I'll ever, guys, I've spent 25 years of my life battling tiffs. You think I'm just going to quit on reefer? The inequity of the war on drugs? Oh, we've ended the war on drugs. Now it's just like a war on black applicants. They won't give a black guy an application. Somehow or other, when this process is done, all these white people are getting it. And it's like, I thought the whole thing was supposed to be about social equity and undoing the damage done by the war on drugs. And by the way, can we give a shout out to Dan Mihalopoulos? That guy's got guts. Danny Mihalopoulos. Hey, it's been a while since he's been on the show. We got to bring him back, dude.
Yeah, we got to get him back.
After the election. Love having the Bulldog on, the original Bulldog. It's like he was watching Tommy Schuba do one story after another. And finally, Danny Mihalopoulos said, all right, look, Tommy, not bad for a rookie. Let me show you how it's done. The Bulldog's back. That's a great story. Guy's got guts, man.
And what you got to do is you got to knock on their door at like 4 a.m. when no one's suspecting. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, hey, I'm the newspaper guy. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's the newspaper. But it's not the newspaper guy. It's me, Dan. And I'm going to get the story.
No, Dan Mihalopoulos, we had him on the show. It was a long time ago. Yeah, he showed up at 5 a.m. or something like that at a work site on the south side of Chicago to confront the son of some alderman. I can't remember the details. I'm like, Danny, what were you doing up at 5 a.m? That's how you do a story, Ben. That's what you got to do. Man, the guy is a hardworking investigative reporter, Dan Mihalopoulos. A lot of love for him on this one, pointing out how this dude who's in trouble with the state for his gambling business somehow or other figured out what you had to do to make the lottery for social equity applicants. Somehow or other, the gamer gamed the system. And his business, Fortunate Sons. I thought about that, Fortunate Sons, man. Well, that's an allusion to a song. Do you know that song?
I was going to say, no, I don't. No. I think I've heard it. I don't know. It sounds like a classic rock song.
Definitely, it is a classic rock song, and you've definitely heard it. If you heard it right now, you would know it.
Let's sing it.
Yeah, I can't, like, it's John Fogerty, Creedence Clearwater. I ain't no citizen.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man.
Fortunate Son. But right there, fortunate. I just like ironic because Fortunate Son, so he could be saying a Fortunate Son, my heart is flying with the freaks of the 60s, Creedence Clearwater smoking reefer. Or it could be like, he's saying, yeah, I'm the fortunate son. I know how to game the system, so I'm a fortunate one. I don't know. It could go either way, D. We could have a whole class, an English class. Let's dissect the title of this company. So Dan did a great job, as Tom Schuba has done a great job in instance after instance, showing how white people gamed a system that was supposed to benefit black people. And now they're going to go, Ben, no, it's not supposed to game black people because that would be illegal. See, for like 400 years, black people got screwed by Jim Crow discrimination. But if you try to like undo it just a little bit with affirmative action, no, Ben, that's reverse discrimination. Can't do that. So we're going to set up this system. We're going to give points for various categories. Uh-oh.
Oh, my God. Hey, I didn't do anything.
That's Canizera coming to get you, D.
Oh, man, don't. That freaks me out.
Nah, we just said nice things about you, Johnny. Come on, man. Leave D alone, all right? He's got his MAGA hat on. No, he doesn't.
No, I don't. I don't even own one.
Anyway, great job, Dan. Great job, Dan Mialopoulos, on this story. I urge everybody to check it out.
Yeah.
As he just exposes one more time the utter hypocrisy of the way we're legalizing marijuana in the state of Illinois. Go ahead, young man.
Nice job, Dan Mialopoulos. And I swear the next time you come knocking on my door at 5 a.m, we're going to have problems.
Dennis, I heard you were wearing a MAGA hat.
More news from the city of Chicago. And hey, here's a name that we haven't really brought up in our local news segment in quite some time. And I'm sure she prefers it that way. Cook County Board President and 2019 Chicago mayoral runoff finalist Tony Preckwinkle. The Cook County Board President has a pandemic budget battle plan ready to roll. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Rachel Hinton. Cook County officials plan to propose a $6.9 billion budget Thursday, closing a $409.2 million shortfall through a mix of layoffs, cutting vacant positions, and tapping into reserves to effectively weather the long-feared rainy day that elected officials have always worried about. Slated to be cut as part of a plan to close a gap of $222.2 million, 659 vacant positions, 300 of them in the sheriff's office, are slated to be cut as part of a plan. At Cook County Health, 130 people could be laid off as a part of the plan to address a separate $187 million budget deficit, though officials say the number of layoffs could wind up being half that by the time the spending plan is final. County budget officials said Wednesday that they face a, quote, unique challenge due to the pandemic, but residents can expect to see no new taxes, though. Nominal increases in some fees are expected to bring in an aggregate of $2 million in three main areas: the medical examiner's office, building and zoning, and environmental control. Along with cutting the vacant positions, Preckwinkle and her team are also proposing reducing non-personnel costs, such as traveling and training for employees, into next year to address the $222.2 million gap in the federal fund, which covers the offices of the sheriff, state's attorney, assessor, chief judge, and clerk, to name a few. And finally, I think the reason why I chose to read this story on the Ben Joravsky Show, revenues from tax increment financing, aka TIF districts in Chicago, a rise in projected revenue from the county's sales tax, as well as $50 million in reimbursements from the federal Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, and $76.8 million from the county's reserves also helped close the gap.
All right. This is one of those budget stories filled with numbers that most people just, their eyes glaze over. They don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it happened to me while I was reading it.
And yeah, it's not just county budget stories, city budget stories are like this, state budget stories are like this, federal budget stories are like this. It's a game, folks. And I'll tell you who knows how to play the game. Tony Preckwinkle knows how to play the game. Tony Preckwinkle was an alderman in the city of Chicago. Ooh, I want to say, D. Let's see if I could do this. I want to say she was an alderman for 18 years. The 18 years of Mayor Richard M. Daley, who knew all the budget games because he learned them from his daddy, Richard J. Daley. So you might say that Richard J. Daley passed on these tricks of the budget game to Richard M. Daley, who passed them on to Tony Preckwinkle, who now is using them as president of the county board. I always thought, she was well suited to be mayor. I wanted her to run in 2015 against Rahm, but she chose not to for reasons she never adequately explained at all. And then she ran in 2019. I ended up voting for Lori Lightfoot anyway. But by the way, Lori's learned these tricks too. So what do you do? Well, first of all, a budget is a projection. So you project that down the road things will get better, and that enables you to claim that you've balanced it. And you worry about the down the road part when you get down the road. But the thing about the TIFs, again, how much time we got?
Oh, well, you got some time. You got a good amount of time.
Call Adolfo. cancel him. Let's see, call Dave Glowatz, cancel him. Let's keep this going for the next 12 hours so I can just talk about tips for 12 hours.
Don't call them. That sounds awful.
Just kidding, guys. I'm not going to do that.
Thank you.
Could do it, but I'm not going to do it. But anyway, when the city kicks back money to itself from the TIF slush fund, they're obligated to kick back money to the other taxing bodies like the county and the park. Just explaining this, I could see people's eyes glazing and they're starting to slumber. This is the brilliance of the TIF program, ladies and gentlemen. It's so complicated and convoluted that when you start explaining it, people and mayors are like, yeah, I gotta take their money. They're asleep. It's like you fall asleep on a train and some guy takes your wallet while you're asleep. That's what happens with the TIF program. But be just okay, Chicagoans, just go about your happy little life and have full faith and confidence that your mayors aren't fleecing you. So anyway, when they kick some money back to themselves, when they take money out of the TIF slush fund and kick it back to the city to help pay its bills, the schools get some money back. The park district gets some money back. The city colleges get some money back. The water rec district gets some money back. And the county gets some money back. All these entities that lost money to the TIF program in the first place get some back when the city dips into the TIF slush fund to pay off its bills. So, yeah. So Tony knew this. She knew how the TIF game was played when she was an alderwoman in the city of Chicago, 4th Ward, as Dennis could tell you, in the Hyde Park area.
Oh, yeah.
And as Dennis could tell you, she was replaced by Will Burns. And as Dennis could tell you, he was replaced by Sophia King.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And as Dennis could tell you, before Tony Preckwinkle, Tim Evans was the alderman of the 4th Ward.
Guys, I can't tell you any of that.
And I can't remember who was alderman before Tim Evans. Uh-oh.
Oh,
a
no.
breakdown.
Oh, no. Could he not be a dork? I don't know.
I think it might have been Claude Holman.
Ah, there he
It might have
is.
been Claude Holman. You know, why don't I just say that? Because, like, who would know? You know what I'm saying, Dave? No one would know. Oh, he's so knowledgeable. Wow, how did he know that? I think it was Claude Holman. I think, yes, Claude Holman was the alderman of the 4th Ward, and Ralph Metcalf was the alderman of the 3rd Ward. This is like 1967, ladies and gentlemen, okay? And Leon Dupre was alderman of the 5th Ward, and I can't remember who was alderman of the 6th Ward. Doesn't matter. Went on a tangent, D. The point is that Toni Preckwinkle's been around for a while. She knows how the game's played, and she knows that when the mayor kicks a little TIF money back to herself, takes scoops into the slush fund to help pay the bills for Chicago, some of it's going to go to the county. So that's why I said just turn the whole city into a giant TIF district. And people are so clueless about TIFs. Their taxes will go up. You can raise the money to pay off all your obligations. And since the Tribune doesn't pay attention to the TIFs, they'll never write about them. Sometimes, well, they started. David Roeder did that one story. Got to give David credit.
Roeder.
Yeah. Oh, God. Could you imagine if Dan Mialopoulos ever got a hold of the TIF? Or Tommy Schuba? If Tommy Schuba got a hold of the... Whoa. A lot of corruption there. A lot of corruption there, fellas. Danny, Tom, anytime you want. Just go take a look at that little... Just pick up the rock. You know how you pick up a rock and you see all the worms running away or whatever? Oh, my God. Anyway, yes, Tony learned a trick or two from Itchy M. Daily.
There we go. We haven't heard about Toni Preckwinkle in a while. That was nice. So we got no public events scheduled for our Illinois governor.
Face coverings.
We will have updates on J.B. Pritzker's Wednesday COVID-19 press briefing after our interview with Adolfo Mondragon. No public events scheduled for our Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine.
And we would like to take this time to mention tonight's part 2 of the Ben Joravsky Show, available at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites and wherever else you download your favorite podcast by 7 o'clock this evening. we will be getting the skinny on last week's Chicago City Council meeting with our City Council beat reporter, Mr. Dave Glowatz. All right.
Gee, I have a question for you.
What?
I haven't noticed. Has Dave sent you the clips yet for that?
Oh, yeah, he sent me the clips.
Oh, God.
We're good.
Favorite part of that. He's so... Dennis, play Ray Lopez. And Dennis is like, this is how it's done.
Yeah,
this is how it's done.
Still waiting for you to take notes on that. And also, and I know no one cares at all, but boy, do I love playing this clip. No public events listed for Republican Illinois Congressman Mike Bost.
I'm sick of it. Every year we give power to one person.
Folks, do yourself a favor. Go to YouTube and watch it because you got to see it where he throws the papers in the air. You ever see that deal where he throws the papers in the air?
Dude is raging out, man.
He's and he got elected Congress. Think about that. He was insane, and the good voters in Southern Illinois go, oh, I'd like him to be my congressman.
But hey, Democratic Congresswoman Lauren Underwood has something going on today. She just released a new campaign ad. And in this ad, thankfully, no, she doesn't yell like a maniac.
I'm sick of it. Every year we give power to one person.
It's time for a 2020 Illinois general election candidate update.
This is a 2020 Illinois general election candidate update.
All right. The magic number is 19. Only 19 days until our Illinois general election. It'll be here before you know it, everybody. And surprise, right now, we have a brand new candidate campaign ad to play for all of you from Lauren Underwood this afternoon. Yes, this ad comes out of the 14th Congressional District race between incumbent Democrat and former guest on the Ben Joravsky Show, Lauren Underwood, and her Republican challenger, not a former, and I'd imagine never a future guest of the Ben Joravsky Show, Mr. Ice Cream Man, Jim Oberweis. Now, when it comes to her campaign ads thus far, Lauren Underwood has remained positive, which I personally appreciate. She's the incumbent. Things are good, so why not talk about it in your ads? You know what I mean? And today's Lauren Underwood ad is more of the same. A positive, uplifting story from 14th Congressional District voter that highlights Underwood's work in Congress. Good times. But if only the same could be said for her Republican opponent, Jim Oberweis's ad. Bad times. Take the latest Oberweis campaign ad, for example. In this ad, Team Oberweis pulls from the uber right-wing playbook in an attempt to scare everyone into believing that Lauren Underwood supports rioting. Same old bullshit in 3, 2, 1.
I'm Jim Oberweis, and I approve this message.
Lauren Underwood was asked if she condemns rioting twice.
Congresswoman, you have not condemned rioting. You have failed to condemn rioting.
Her response?
With respect to rioting and looting, I think that we have seen many instances of beautiful protest.
Riots are not beautiful. They're ugly. Vote against rioters and anyone who enables them. Vote against Lauren Underwood.
Oh, my God.
There you go. I got to vote against rioting. Because, of course, Lauren Underwood, she must stand for rioting. Like Lauren Underwood is one of the most decent people that I've ever dealt with. She's very respectful. She's upbeat, as Dennis said. She's got a lovely personality. I was rooting for her like hell when she ran in the, 2018 against Randy Holgren, defeated him. By the way, she wasn't expected to win. She's done her best to be the kind of Democrat that could win support in an area that went for Trump. So I give her credit for that. It's real easy to be the mayor of Chicago and bash Trump. It's really easy to be an alderman from the north side of Chicago and bash Trump, or the south side, anywhere in Chicago, really, and just bash Trump. Try getting reelected in an area where there's a lot of Trump people. You have to be diplomatic. You have to be courteous, super courteous. You have to pretend like there's some logic governing Donald Trump's bizarre behavior. And you have to refrain from just, like, in general, nasty partisan attacks. That's what you have to do. It's tough. And I give her a lot of credit. but you also have to be true to what you believe in. And Lauren Underwood is not going to throw under the bus. That seems to be a theme today. Like everybody threw Eddie Johnson under a bus when it's no longer convenient to have him around. She's just not going to throw under a bus the people who were legitimately protesting police brutality this summer in the wake of George Floyd's murder. So I give her credit for that. I think that was Tommy McNamee, by the way, D. You know, the voice asking her a question? That may have been, I think that was Young Thomas, who was the editorial board editor of the Chicago Sun. He used to come on the show from time to time. Back
Tommy Mac.
I think that was at a Chicago Sun-Times endorsement session where all the candidates showed up. Or at least they're probably doing it virtually these days because nobody's going to the bright one anymore. But so I give her credit. And Oberweis, it's like he's just taking a page from Trump, just like you said, D, trying to just rip apart those wounds. Oh, it's like we have a situation here where, we could like exploit racial divisions and hostilities. Yeah, I think I'll go there. That might get me reelected. That might get me elected, not even reelected. It might get me elected. I'd say shame on you, Oberweis, but you have no shame. So I'm really hoping people in the 14th Congressional just don't fall for it. Smarter than that, 14th Congressional. Don't fall for it.
And notice how they were kind of using the sound effects from Bill the Bro Conway in his ad on Kim Fox.
Bullshit. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. Bullshit.
I know.
You notice that in the ad?
Yeah. I could just see like a convention of Republican operatives. I think it was really effective is what you do is you take a word they say and then you just go, should get a strobe light go,
Bullshit.
Well,
it's
really,
bullshit. It's
Oh my God, you're right.
Bullshit.
That does work.
It does. Oh my God. Yeah, it worked wonder for Bill the Bro, who lost to Kim Conway, and that was on our show.
Yeah,
that's correct, D.
Yeah,
the good old days.
Yeah,
she came on our show. She goes, "Can I say that?" I go, "Yes, you can."
Well, you just did. All right. Now, in contrast, here's the latest campaign ad from our Democratic Congresswoman out of the 14th Congressional District, Lauren Underwood. Cue the soft, sappy music.
My daughter Lila was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when she was 8 years old. The amount out of pocket is around $300 monthly, and that's with insurance. Lauren Underwood listened to us, and she took all that information and went back and did something about it. She wrote a bill that got signed by President Trump to help with the cost of insulin. As a parent of a child with type 1 diabetes, knowing that this is something that she will need for the rest of her life, knowing that it's affordable, gives me a sigh of relief.
I'm Lauren Underwood, and I approve this message.
All right. You notice that the woman said, Lauren Underwood wrote a bill that got signed by President Trump. That's what I'm talking about. That's the kind of campaign you run when you're a Democrat. That was Exhibit A of the kind of campaign you have to run when you're a Democrat in an area that went for Donald Trump. You can't be Lori Lightfoot saying, F you. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole different ball game. That's why I have profound respect on one level for Democrats who can win in areas like that. And that's how I understand and appreciate the limitations, the difficulty it is to get the Democratic Party as a whole to sign on to some of the lefty legislation that I would like to see, because I know the way the map is drawn. And it's a challenge and it's difficult. I sometimes maybe I make it seem like it's easier than it is. But that's what you got to do. She didn't say Donald Trump the doofus, which, by the way, I would have loved it if she had said that. No, she said, wrote a bill that got signed by President Trump. She didn't call him Orange Head or Donnie or whatever disparaging things the rest of us say about him. Oh, suddenly he's President Trump. So that's the kind of commercial you have to run, D, when you're a Democrat running an area that went for Trump.
And there it was, a 2020 Illinois general election candidate update.
That was a 2020 Illinois general election candidate update.
Update.
And there's the brown line.
We're driving that train, high on cocaine.
All right, everybody, make sure to follow us on social media at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can send us an email. By the way, Dragon Slayer 19 sent us an email. Ben, I forwarded that to you. Did you have it?
That was an excellent email.
All right.
Excellent email. And by the way, thank you for the kind words, Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer was taking, he's asking a legitimate question. You know, I talk about how I do not believe the polls that say black voters in this country, what was it, 8%, I think it was, went for Trump in 2016, and that it's going to be more this year. I don't believe it, because when I take a look at real voting results from the black wards of Chicago, it's always lower. And Dragon Slayer was saying, well, you know, Ben, perhaps black voters are not a monolith, that a black voter in Chicago may be different than, I don't know, suburban Philadelphia. I'm just making stuff up. Or in Alabama, or et cetera and so forth. And so I must confess, Dragon Slayer, I've not taken the deep dive on this issue in a while. In 2004, this is how long my obsessions have gone. Dragon Slayer, please don't hold this against me as a case study of what a lunatic I am. But in 2004, this is when I first became aware of this issue. There was a report that came out that upwards of 20% of black voters were, I think, were going to vote for George W. Bush. I couldn't believe that. And so that just stuck in my head for a while. And when the election was over, I actually took the deep dive as much as I could across the country, looking in areas areas that were overwhelmingly black. And I did it in Cleveland, and I went down to Georgia. I did California, and it was nowhere near 20%. In fact, here's the interesting thing. When I take a look at Chicago, if I could just share this with you, Dragon Slayer, this is a sign of my obsession. I know Chicago area. I don't know Atlanta or Cleveland, et cetera, but I know Chicago area. I know the demographics of Chicago. And so whenever I saw a precinct that was integrated, the number of Republican votes just goes up. It's unbelievable. And even if it's integrated with Hispanics, it goes up. I mean, these are voting patterns that I see here in Chicago. Now, how universal Chicago is, you raise a good point, Dragon Slayer. I do not know. Can't say with any certainty, because I haven't studied it since 2004. But I look at it this way. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The Republican Party has not really offered black voters anything. If anything, they've gone in the opposite direction, and they've insulted like black elected officials. Donald Trump has anyway, and black celebrities. And they've mocked them and maligned them, and they've used the crime in cities like Chicago as like a hammer, just to like beat up the people that live there and use them as like a spectacle to get scare white people into voting for Donald Trump. So I think it is like, as a lefty, like, I don't want to just give my vote to the Democratic Party. I wish I could play one party against the other. But as a lefty, when I look at the Republicans, what are they offering me? And I think it's that same way with a lot of black voters. It's not like they want to be Democrats, you know? I think that it would be far healthier if voters could routinely vote for one party or the other, if people had a reason to vote for one party or another. But if they don't give you any options, really, what's your choice? So that's kind of how I view it as a lefty. Adolfo Mondragon is joining us. We're going to take a break, D, and bring him on. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. So send us an email. Be like Dragon Slayer. Call us 708-658-4788. Leave us a voicemail. That number again, 708-658-4788. Reach out to the Ben Joravsky Show. After this Mike Girardi song, election lawyer Adolfo Mondragon makes his return. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from my apartment in Ben's attic.
Just for fun, we got a feeling this may They say they wanna level with you, like they level public housing and they're level in schools. You gotta file just to beg for the truth, and if they reject it, then shame on you. Tax and credit financing, we can pay for anything, like shopping malls with movie screens and everything but what you need to kids who wanna eat for free. Get a fucking PhD and don't you dare complain to me if you want an opportunity. Eventually, we are the ones who fall in line. We've been the magic kids 1,000 times. We are the ones who fall in line. Oh, yeah. Hey, 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 woo. We are the ones who fall in line. We've been the magic kids 1,000 times. We are the ones who fall in line. Oh, yeah. Hey, 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 woo.
Face coverings.
Thank you, JB. This election, Chicago voters are casting a ballot on much more than the President of the United States. Some of the races we will be voting on include the Cook County State's Attorney, over 60 judges, our Water Reclamation District Commissioners, and changes to our taxes. With all these races, candidates, and issues, casting an informed ballot can seem like a challenge. But Chicago Votes, a nonpartisan organization, is here to provide you with information on the candidates and issues on the ballot. Their 2020 voter guide is available digitally at chicagovotes.com and chicagoreader.com. Pull it up on your laptop, take it with you into the voting booth on your phone, and feel confident in knowing who and what you are voting for. chicagovotes.com. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers Local 9, the International Union of Operating Engineers Local 150, and the Chicago Federation of Labor. Benny J, take it away.
When I realized that Amy Coney Barrett's hearings were going to start in the Senate this week, I reached out to Adolfo Mondragon, my good friend, a lawyer here in Chicago. Adolfo and I spent many hours on the phone talking about these things. I like to share them. He was too busy to come on Tuesday, but I cut a deal to bring him on for Thursday. Adolfo, welcome back to the show, young man.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for the invitation. It's always good to be on the show.
All right. And as I always say, Adolfo is a proud graduate of Curia High, Yale undergraduate, and the University of Chicago. All right, he's born and raised here in the city of Chicago. Chicago South Sider, loves his beloved White Sox a little too much. He's very excited that Tony La Russa may be making his return. I'm going to refrain from talking about one of the, please, Sox, don't bring back Tony La Russa, okay? He's like 90 years old.
Yeah,
right?
he's like 90.
I mean, I know you're carried away with Biden running, he's 78, Bernie running, he's 78, you know, Dianne Feinstein, she's 87, but come on. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to go there. Adolfo graduated from University of Chicago Law School, which is dominated by conservatives. So you'd think he would be of the Scalia, Bork, view of the world, but instead he's a Bernie Sanders Democrat. Adolfo, how in the world did that happen? That you went to the University of Chicago Law School and ended up a lefty?
I was already a lefty, I guess, because I right before attending the University of Chicago, I was working for the ACLU of Illinois. But my mentor there said, listen, because I am obviously a first-generation college, definitely first-generation law school, didn't know how the legal system works. And she said, you go to the highest ranked university that you can get into. And in my case, excuse me, that was the University of Chicago, which was a top 3 school. And she said, you're going to go into the bastion of conservatism, but that's a good thing. She says, you're going to learn from the evil masters themselves. And when you go out and practice in the world, you'll know all their tricks and trades, and you'll be able to stand up against them that much more. She goes, it'll be horrible while you're there. You'll be the lone person, or one of the few that are going to be on your side of the political spectrum. But, they are smart people, and you will learn a lot. And the main thing is that you go there, you get your degree, you get that great education, and hopefully also the name will open up doors for you.
All right, let me ask you this.
That's how I ended up there.
All right, let me ask you this. So that's sound advice from that lawyer at ACLU way back when, and you go to the University of Chicago and you meet all those Scalia-lites, people who are just emulate Antonin Scalia or Robert
Who
Bork.
taught there? I don't know for people who don't know.
Yeah.
But he taught at the University of Chicago.
Didn't Bork also teach there?
I think so. And all those judges in particular, all the legal theories that we'll be talking about originated there at the University of Chicago.
Okay. And so at any point while you're a young scholar at the University of Chicago, being saturated with the worldview of the Scalias and their disciples, did you ever find yourself thinking, God, this makes sense? God, I suddenly see the world as Antonin Scalia sees it. Did you ever have a moment like that?
Not quite, but there are some conservative principles that make sense. For instance, your first year there, you get bombarded in various classes, not in all of them, because to be fair, at least back when I went to the University of Chicago, although the conservatives and the conservative principles ruled, the faculty did contain a good number of people who did not necessarily prescribe to that. And so even in your first year, while you might have professors that dumped all of this stuff on you, there were others that didn't apply this stuff. So for example, another conservative jurisprudence theory or whatever is this law and economics. The application of economics to legal principles is taught to you, and it's kind of a very cold way of applying economics to the legal system. And sometimes, and a lot of times, those principles work. They come out with good outcomes. But when you apply them to everything, like if I remember correctly, Judge Posner was a big, a proponent of law and economics. And, I don't remember correctly, but I think that he applied it to even a market for adopting babies or something like that. And, when you started applying economics to certain things like that, then the world doesn't, really look good anymore. To some people like us, maybe to a Posner, it makes perfect rational sense. But, not to everyone. So there was a moment where I said, okay, some of these things apply to business or apply to certain contracts or transactions makes sense. But, if you want to apply this principle to everything, to the criminal law, for example, then you start, then you start rendering into areas where, it starts clashing with those principles of efficiency start clashing with justice. And you're like, nah, efficiency's cool, but I prefer to have a just outcome here, or something that I believe is just.
Well, I got to tell you, had you succumbed, had you followed Amy Coney Barrett on that path, you'd probably be a judge right now. Because
definitely,
Adolfo Mondragon from city of Chicago, who turned his back on everything.
Dude, I'd be the Clarence Thomas of the Hispanics or something,
Yeah. Clarence Thomas of the Hispanics.
Yeah, I'd be the token dude to be like, look, there's Latinos in this movement,
Yeah. Oh my God. They're so. That's a whole other story. We'll hold back on whether Latinos are voting for Donald Trump. Let's just stick to the Amy Coney Barrett. All right. So they keep saying that she's an originalist. They keep trying to say that Amy Coney Barrett has a philosophy that she's following, a worldview that she's following. Now, personally, I guess I'm jaded and cynical, Adolfo. I just figure like they cook up whatever legal explanation they need at any given moment to justify, making wealthier people even wealthier than they already are. That's generally, I think, the role that judges realize they're supposed to play if they're the right-wing persuasion, and they stitch together some BS philosophy to judge it. Now, I know you're going to say that's terribly unfair as you explain to us what originalism is and how it's a legitimate legal philosophy. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think there's a grain of truth to what you say, but the idea behind originalism and behind formalism and textualism, which are these three kind of interrelated theories of judicial jurisprudence, is that there's this mechanical way of applying things to the law that are objective, that don't, that are consistent, so that you have these rules that you could always apply. They might not give you the answer that you like. They might not give you a very quote unquote modern answer, but you can rely on them, which I always thought was stupid because I was in prep for this. I was looking at some YouTube debate or not debates, but talks that Scalia had either on his own or with like Justice Breyer or some of these other Supreme Court justices. And he emphasized how my methodology has an answer, always has an answer. You may not like them. Like, for example, he said, the death penalty in 1791 applied to all felonies. So today, yes, if Congress made a law that said that if you are found guilty of a felony like embezzlement, a blue-collar felony, that not non-violent or whatever, could you get the death penalty? Yes. It might not be what we want today, but it's constitutional. And that never made sense to me. Why would you want answers that are mostly wrong all the time? Even if it's just for the sake of giving you an answer or finding some mechanical way of getting an answer based on this originalism, which is the idea that you interpret the Constitution in the way circumstances and political realities in history and all whatever, took place in 1790, when it was ratified. And that's and for the sake of having a consistent mechanical way of applying the Constitution forever from there on. Because the idea is that, our democracy is majority rules, except for the Constitution via its liberties that are in the Bill of Rights, etc. Because those will always be consistent, no matter what the majority says. Those will always be consistent. And Scalia thinks they'll be consistent according to what it meant in 1791, which is pretty stupid, I think. And I think it's this because I was thinking about it yesterday, and the idea is that has to remain consistent, he says. But it has to be locked in, and if 200 years later the Congress wants to pass a law that is different than what it meant in 1791, they're more than free to do so. And if they want to amend the Constitution, they're more than free to do so. But we can't change what it meant in 1791. And I'm like, well, democracies themselves change over time. I think I discussed a long time ago. I mentioned to you when I went to Yale, there was a Yale professor who was no longer there. A guy named Robert Dahl wrote a book called Who Governs. It's a very famous political science book about democracy in New Haven. But he also wrote another book, Polyarchy. It's a phenomenal book of political science, and it has a very simple idea of democracy, that you meet democracy. He has like a graph, and you meet democracy, the more open the society is, and in terms of allowing people to vote, and also in terms of on another axis, I'm trying to remember here off the top of my head, but the more people are allowed to vote, and also I forget, there's another axis, but my point is that even democracies grow over time and become more inclusive. In 1791, the U.S. was a democracy, but it was very closed. It was closed to the elites, and you had to be a property owner to be able to vote. You had to be a man to vote. You had to be a white man to vote. And over time, all of those things changed. The rules among the elites expanded to people who were in the middle class. Then the vote was expanded. Suffrage was expanded to after the 14th Amendment to African Americans, and then to women, and then et cetera, et cetera. And so democracy itself is evolving over time. Why the hell can't the Constitution evolve with it? And that society. So this idea that it has to be stagnant or fixed, that we always have to go back to that point, never made sense to me, because the democracy itself is always evolving. We weren't a full-fledged democracy in 1791, far from it. According to Robert Dahl, we were a fledgling one that started to go on the trajectory of having a more inclusive society. And so why couldn't the Constitution also reflect that it was a fledgling democracy it reflected, and therefore over time it was going to reflect a growing and evolving democracy?
That is a valid question. I could see why you're irritated the hell out of your conservative law professors by asking it. Let's talk about textualism. Supposedly, Neil Gorsuch is the great textualist on the Supreme Court. I guess Amy Coney Barrett is supposed to be more of an originalist. What's textualism?
So textualism is kind of related in the sense that, again, it's applying mechanical rules to the reading of the law, of statutes in particular, but even of the Constitution itself. So textualism says that basically you interpret a law and you start and you stick to the text. And unless the text itself is what's called ambiguous, because it could have more than one reasonable interpretation based on, what a word means, for example, then you could start looking to other sources, maybe history or maybe legislative history or debates in Congress, etc., to start to try to decipher what the lawmakers meant when they passed this rule. And so, amazingly, textualism has pretty much taken over. In 1983, when Scalia was, when he made it to the Supreme Court, textualism was just one of the many tools out there. But now, anytime you have a case that involves a question and that interprets a statute, what does this statute mean? No matter what state or whether it's federal or state court, you generally have a textualist approach that you use. I just submitted an appeal to the first district here in Illinois about the case that I've come on the show to talk about before, involving campaign finance, whether or not politicians can use campaign money to pay for their legal defenses that have nothing to do with their campaigns. And the question there is one of interpretation, and it has to use a textual approach. You basically ask the court, look at the language of the statute, and based on what these words mean, is it okay for someone to use this money for their criminal defense? And that's the way I would say now, most courts in 40 years now look at the law, and they start with the text. And what they're trying to do away with was, previous to that, the Supreme Court would often look at other factors to try to see what the law meant. They might look at a congressional debate and say, well, look, Senator Durbin said that, when they were debating this rule, that, he was concerned about niching out something for these people. And so therefore you could say, well, that's what the law meant then, because, they obviously discussed it and then they passed it. And Scalia, people who believe in textualism say, well, that's BS, because then you could cherry pick a debate here, a debate there. But, there's also similar kind of critiques to textualism, because, for example, one of the tools you use in textualism are dictionaries. Well, what does a word mean? well, some people say, well, you could shop for dictionaries. Does the Webster Dictionary have a better definition that suits your needs, or does the Oxford Dictionary have a better definition? So textualism overall, I think, is a good approach, particularly for like when you're interpreting a contract, even for reading statutes. And it generally leads to a good conclusion, but it shouldn't preclude you also looking at other factors to try to get the right outcome.
All right. Well, let's give some live samples from the hearing and get your comments on what I would call like both the practical implications of the question that's being asked, what the senators are looking for, and what Amy Coney Barrett is covering up and how it will play out. So, Dee, why don't we start with, I get to do this. Dennis, play Kamala for Adolfo.
All right, I'm pulling it up right now. Adolfo, how's it going, man? You been good?
Good, man.
Yes, play Kamala.
All right. We got an ad here. Hang tight. Hold on. Kohl's. I need to go to Kohl's. All right, here we go.
My question, however, is do you agree with Chief Justice Roberts, who said voting discrimination still exists? No one doubts that. Do you agree with that statement?
Senator Harris, I will not comment on what any justice said in opinion, whether an opinion is right or wrong, or endorse that proposition.
Well, I'm asking you, do you call it a proposition or a fact? Are you saying you do not agree with a fact?
Senator, I'm not going to make a comment. I'm not going to say that I endorse either the majority or the dissent in the case of Shelby County.
Well, I just want to understand, are you saying that you will, you refuse to dispute a known fact, or that you refuse to agree with a known fact?
Senator, I'm not exactly sure what you're getting at with asking me to endorse the fact or whether any particular practice constitutes voter discrimination. I'm very happy to say that I think racial discrimination still exists in the United States, and I think we've seen evidence of that this summer.
And do you accept that COVID-19 is infectious?
I think, yes, I do accept that COVID-19 is infectious. That's something of which I feel like, we could say you take judicial notice of. It's an obvious fact, yes.
Do you accept that smoking causes cancer?
I'm not sure exactly where you're going with this, but, the notice that smoking causes...
The question is what it is. You can answer it if you believe. Yes or no?
Senator Harris, yes, every package of cigarettes warns that smoking causes cancer.
And do you believe that climate change is happening and is threatening the air we breathe and the water we drink?
Senator, again, I was wondering where you were going with that. You have asked me a series of questions that are completely uncontroversial, like whether COVID-19 is infectious, whether smoking causes cancer, and then trying to analogize that to eliciting an opinion on me that is a very contentious matter, opinion from me that is on a very contentious matter of public debate, and I will not do that. I will not express a view on a matter of public policy, especially one that is politically controversial, because that's inconsistent with the judicial role, as I have explained.
Thank you, Judge Barrett, and you've made your point clear that you believe it's a debatable point.
All right. And let me just say, Adolfo, I found that annoying on so many levels.
Oh, totally.
And I think that... Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I think that this whole dodging, posture is they say, oh, well, the judicial canons and all this other stuff, and technically that may be true, but I think it all just originates because when Bork had his Senate hearing, they went off on his positions on abortion, and he had clear positions on it, and then basically that lost him the seat on the Supreme Court. And so now all of these conservatives who feel the same way that Bork does and have all these very conservative positions, firmly legal positions that they've thought about and written about as academics and whatever, all of a sudden want to shut up about them because they want their goal is to be on the Supreme Court, so then they could expound on all the shit that they don't want to tell us about.
Yeah. By the way, Bork lost because the Democrats controlled the Senate. They had the votes. Amy Coney Barrett could say whatever she wants, and she'll be
exactly.
She could say, "I will go up there. I will destroy Roe. I cannot wait to do it." And and all those Republicans
and give a finger to everyone, and she's there for life. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Exactly. So why play this little?
Why play this game? And by the way, the arrogance. Where are you going? You're a lawyer. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I've watched a million movies about law and read a million John Grisham books. Man, it's something like they build with a series of questions on a cross-examination. So do you believe this? Do you believe that? Do you believe that? Bam! And so who the hell are you to say, to comment on the question? Where are you going with this? I want to know where you're going. You don't get to do that. Could you imagine in a real law, the judges...
What I don't get either is they're always, I don't want to comment on hypotheticals. Well, if you can't comment on hypotheticals, then what the fuck can you comment on? Because the thing is, I understand that when you're a judge, you're limited to making a ruling on what's called a controversy. There has to actually be a case before you, right? But she's not commenting on an actual case, and her comments are not going to have effect on any controversy before her at the moment. So why can't she, just like when she was at Notre Dame teaching class, expound on what she believes and has definitely thought about for hours and hours about certain issues in society? Like abortion or she just doesn't want to tip her hand and gives people a reason not to, she basically wants to get on to the Supreme Court no matter what the fuck she has to do, including dancing on the memory of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and dancing all the way, to the Supreme Court seat. And then once she's there, that's it. She's 40 something. She's going to be there for life.
Yeah. She'll be there.
And she'll probably at some point, she'll be the majority member, and she'll be the senior member, and she'll be the chief of the damn Supreme Court, like 20, 30 years.
Yeah, and by the way, there's a couple bits just hearing that. I had a smile. So when Kamala Harris is asking her, does she believe the racial discrimination exists? She goes, "I'm very happy to say racial discrimination exists." I'm
very happy to say.
Okay, didn't quite come out the way you wanted it to. I will concede. Oh God, that's nice of you. To make that concession. Right.
It's so stupid. And then I saw a bit when Durbin grilled her about her decision in that case where some guy who had committed major fraud wanted to apply for a gun license, and the law said, the federal law says no gun licenses to convicted felons, and the two other judges saw it. They called balls and strikes like you're supposedly supposed to do. And they said, the law says a felon can't have it. So sorry, brother, you committed major fraud against the government. You forfeited your right to get a license. But she on her own had her legal clerks do this research about what the legal history of in 1791, did they forbid people from carrying a gun if they had committed a felony. And she parsed it out some way that said, well, if they were non-violent felonies, then it was cool. You could bear a gun. But if it was a violent felony, then yes, maybe they could take your gun away in 1791. And based on that, she did some total dissent. And it's so contrived. It's such a contrived thing because, one, no one asked her to do that research. They just asked her to call balls and strikes on what the fucking law said. Yeah. And she didn't do that. And second, once she found that she could make this esoteric parsing out of the law in 1791 or whatever, she said, oh, this will be a great vehicle for me to do a dissent. So I'll put little nuggets in here and little messages for someone else to then take that and then use it in a majority ruling sometime down the law. So Durbin started grilling her and saying, hey, are you saying in this opinion that there are two types of rights? One that you could take away and some that you can't. And you could take away the right to vote, for example, but you can't take away the right for this guy to bear an arm. are you saying that one is a second class right to the other? And she's like, that's not what I said. That's not what I intended. I'm like, oh, bullshit. That's exactly what you fucking meant.
Well, yes, like I said, yes, you obviously agree with me more than you're willing to concede, Adolfo. They come up with these cockamamie legal rulings to justify what they wanted to do in the first place.
There was no point. There was no point for her to make that in that case, for her to go on and on about her originalist view on this issue. All she had to say is I dissent, and that's it,
I know, but you're absolutely, she was setting it up for a future ruling. That's what she was doing.
Exactly. And she chose that vehicle to do it, and she said, oh, this is an easy one. They could set it up and make me look nice, and
before we get to the next clip, I got to say the part that made me, there was one part that made me smile. And that's where Kamala Harris asked her, did she believe that COVID is contagious? And Amy Coney was like, of course, COVID's contagious.
Oh, didn't she get sick this summer from COVID?
Wait, if COVID is contagious, she goes, that's not a controversial issue. If COVID is contagious and it's not controversial, why did you go to that reception that Donnie threw for you and nobody's wearing a mask? If you believe, oh, come on, Senator.
She'll say, well, I had antibodies in my body. That's why.
What about everybody else? Yeah.
Right. What about her kids who she put there like right next to all these other, strangers?
No, but man, I just love that they're lawyers. Kamala's doing that 1-2 setup punch, and Amy Coney Barrett, I know you're going somewhere. Where are you going with this? Like, hey, calm down. You don't get to ask the questions. She got carried away by Donald Trump in the first debate with Biden.
But what gets me there is, one, she's dodging on these things by avoiding, answering and questioning why you're questioning her in a particular way. But two, it also some of the stuff that I've seen her answers shows that she's totally bullshitting. When she can't dodge anymore, she just lies. They asked her, did you know that Trump had mentioned you like 2 years prior and said, I'm saving her for when Ginsburg dies because she's gonna rule in my favor on these particular issues. And they said, do you know that that's why he nominated you? And you're here because he believes that you're gonna rule X, Y, and Z on these cases. And she's like, I never heard him say that. I don't know. I'm not aware of that. I'm like, bullshit. The Federalist Society has been pumping money to lobbying Trump to make her a judge, and then he finally did in the Seventh Circuit here in our court. So come on, that's bullshit that she doesn't know.
I'm with you. Just be honest and say what's going on. You're still going to win anyway.
She's going to win anyway. Exactly.
Yeah, you're going to win anyway.
She just say, fuck you all. I got my ticket. Fuck you all.
She should literally do that. Right.
It should be like a Chappelle skit where she's just like, shit, motherfuckers, I'm gonna overturn this tomorrow, and I'm gonna overturn that. So fuck you, and fuck you.
We have a game on the Ben Joravsky Show, over-under on when Adolfo either starts swearing or does a Dave Chappelle routine reference. Loves Dave Chappelle, ladies and gentlemen. All right, D, we're going to go to the other clip that we have. Dennis, play election ruling.
All right, hang tight. I'm pulling it up. Hey, LaRussa would be a good. What was the manager you were talking about for the White Sox again?
Oh, Tony La Russa.
Yeah,
that's Jerry Reinsdorf's idea. And Rick.
Hey Ben, is Jim Leland still around? Is he still around?
Oh yeah, that guy.
There we go. Let's get Casey Stengel. Is he still alive? Casey Stengel was the manager of the New York Yankees in the 1950s.
All right, we got an ad here. Hey, anybody need a GMC? All right, here we go.
You think that having 3 justices who have worked on the Republican side, Bush v. Gore, you're one of those justices, should you be confirmed, creates an appearance of conflict if an election case involving a president who nominated you comes before the court? And I'm basically out of time, so I'd like a yes or no answer.
Well, Senator Rona, I answered that question before and said any question of whether there was an appearance of partiality problem would be one for all justices involved to consider under the recusal statute.
So you think there might be a conflict, and therefore you would have to go through that entire
Senator, I think
process.
anytime someone makes a motion to recuse, and indeed even one is not made, a judge always has to consider that issue. So, I mean, you're asking me to make a decision about whether I think myself and two people who are not even yet my colleagues should recuse in that situation, and I'm just saying that
No, but actually, my question was whether it poses an appearance of conflict, and I believe that the fact that you would even bring forth the recusal process says to me that voters might decide that there is an appearance of conflict.
I mean, I think the only thing I'd want to clarify is, you know, insofar as Senator Hirono was suggesting, I think that the work that some of the justices may have done on Bush v. Gore is reason to recuse. That is certainly not what I meant. What I meant is that in every case, judges have an obligation to consider the issues, and they may conclude no. So what I meant to be saying was just not to take a position. So I just want to make that answer clear.
Yeah, I want to make it clear that I'm not taking a position. I want to make that, that's pretty clear. All right. That is, by the way, Senator Mazie Hirono from Hawaii, a Democrat from Hawaii, in which she's zeroing in on Adolfo. And I know you know this, but I'm going to say it anyway. She's zeroing on whether because Amy Coney Barrett worked on Bush's behalf at Bush versus Gore. That was the last election before 2016 where the Republicans won, even though they lost. Figure that one out, folks. Whether she should recuse herself on similar situations if they arise with Donnie Trump. She was, you know, ducking and dodging and weaving and bobbing. Looked like a little like Sugar Ray Leonard. Adolfo is a big boxing fan.
Well, you know, that conflict of interest thing is interesting because they asked her also at the beginning, someone, I forget who, said, you know, why the urgency in filling this spot? Why do we have to rush your ass through to get you to the Supreme Court? In light of the fact that President Trump has publicly said that, one, he likes you because you're going to rule in his favor on particular issues. Two, he's promoting this fake story about how ballots are, there's going to be a lot of voter fraud, and he's going to challenge the results, and that he feels that he needs a ninth judge up there so that he could get a favorable decision and retain the presidency through a judicial opinion on his so-called voter fraud or whatever. So they asked her, don't you think, so why are you a pawn essentially? And then she's like, I'm not a pawn of any, of course you are. Of course you're a pawn. Of course you're a pawn. And there is a total conflict of interest thing. If she was so worried about being being a good and fair and objective justice, why doesn't she just say to Trump, you know, you fucked it up for me. You said all these things in public. Now, even if I want to be fair about this stuff, it clouds my whole Senate hearing. And you know what? I'm just going to have to pass. It would have been great to be on the Supreme Court, but maybe I'll have another shot some other day. Thank you very much. And now nominate somebody else. Nah, because their ass wants to get up there and fucking and do all of this stuff.
Yes. And by the way, I said this yesterday. I've absolutely believe this. I have no proof, but I believe this. Donald Trump, I think I mentioned this to you, to Adolfo. Donald Trump is incapable of concealing what he's up to. So he had Sessions in there.
So
he goes,
she knows why she's. So she knows she's a pawn.
Yeah, I bet you.
He told her.
He goes, I can't wait to get you up there. It's going to drive those liberals crazy. You're filling Ruth Bader Ginsburg's seat, and then you're going to you may have to vote to elect me back in. It's going to be a beautiful thing. And she's like, whatever, boss. I just want to get on the Supremes.
Exactly.
And, so, yeah, that's why Donnie's very open about it. Give him credit.
Oh, of course, and for her to say, like, play the Babe of the Woods routine. Oh, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah.
I don't know about the Federalist Society, and I don't know about Trump and what he has said and I live in a cocoon in an ivory tower, and I don't listen to any of that stuff, and I'm too busy with my 7 kids and my
All right,
docket.
So now we're going to close, Dennis, with the Lindsey one. And I'm doing this one. This is Lindsey Graham, the Republican senator from South Carolina who chairs the Judiciary Committee. He's in a tight race for re-election with Jamie Harrison. Unfortunately, I just saw a poll that had him up, Graham up by 6 points. So it's a long shot for the Democrats. But this is the ultimate suck-up clip. This clip here establishes what I was getting at earlier, that she was going to win no matter what she said. And watch how they try to play the religion card in this one, Adolfo. This is just Republican suck up politics at its worst. D, play Lindsey.
I think it's pretty clear to everybody who's been watching these hearings that you and your family are pro-life, that you are a practicing Catholic, and you adhere to the tenets of your faith. But I hope people also understand that you have made a pledge to the committee and to the country at large that you will set aside whatever religious views you have when it comes time to decide the law. I have never been more proud of a nominee than I am of you. You've been candid to this body about who you are, what you believe. You've been reassuring in your disposition, and this is history being made, folks. This is the first time in American history that we've nominated a woman who's unashamedly pro-life and embraces her faith without apology, and she's going to the court. Seat at the table is waiting on you.
God, I got to tell you, the guy contradicts himself like 3 times in one. You believe you're so true to your faith, but you're not going to let your faith influence you in any decisions. And by the way, this is the first time ever a woman who's unabashedly pro-life is going to the court. Hint, hint, don't believe anything I said when I told you that she wasn't gonna. Oh my God.
It would be something if Amy Barrett went up there and said, I'm Catholic. I firmly believe in, I'm against abortion, blah, blah, but I will tell you this, and I will vow right now that when it comes to the legal position, am going to uphold Roe v. Wade and going to rule every single time against my religious conviction. And you can guarantee that and take that to the bank. Then I would be like, oh, yeah, fucking A, there you go. But
wow.
But then what good does it do to say that she's that she's a fervent Catholic and all this stuff if she isn't going to rule the way her convictions matter? Only mention that if she's going to say, despite that, I'm not going to rule that way. That's the only reason to mention it. If you're not going to rule in that way, if you are going to rule in that way, then then don't bring up all this other shit about how Catholic you are.
Well, they're doing that obviously because, again, Republicans, I've said this many times, love to play the victim card. So one of they're picking on her because she is a very religious Catholic. So that's the card they were playing, left over from her first judicial hearing, the first time she was for judge. Now the Democrats dropped that. Nobody mentioned that. They're all afraid it's an election year. They don't want in any way play that card, but the Republicans keep playing it. They've discriminated against you. Discriminated? She's being nominated for the highest court land.
Meanwhile, if you want to be honest, those fucking Protestants hate her Catholic ass, but because she rules in the same way for an abortion, they're all like, oh, your Catholic tenets, your religion is so great. Meanwhile, they're like, fuck, couldn't we have gotten a fucking Lutheran up here or something?
The views and opinions of Adolfo Mondragon are not necessarily those of the Ben Joravsky.
Think about it. When Kennedy ran for president, they called him a papist. They called him all this shit. You swear they love her because she's a Catholic. They don't love her because she's a Catholic. They love her because she has this position on abortion.
Yes, they love her because she's going to do what they want.
If she was, they would love if she was an evangelical. Then they'd be fucking doing flips and shit in the Senate halls and be like, God damn, we got one of ours on the Supreme Court.
Yeah. You know. And also, a subject for another time. They really love her for the ruling she's going to make in terms of favoring businesses over unions and workers, and favoring businesses over environmental regulations. That's where her greatest service will come in. And we shall see. Maybe she'll prove us wrong, Adolfo. Maybe she will get in the court and her inner Ruth Bader Ginsburg will emerge, and suddenly she'll be issuing. Wouldn't that be funny? Oh my God, that's a good movie premise. Anyway, Adolfo, we have to let you go, young man. The great Adolfo Mondragon comes on, talks about legal issues with us, and from time to time. And appreciate you coming on, and stay healthy, stay wise. We'll bring you back probably after the election to talk politics, all right?
Sounds good, man. Take it easy.
All right, that's great, Adolfo Mondragon. Dennis, you got any updates for us before we head out that door?
Yeah, I got some updates here. Boy, the Mondragon interviews are funny. Like, he won't cuss at all, and then he'll hit this point where he'll cuss every now and again. Then towards the end, he's just MFing, GDing.
He forgets. Okay, so you got to understand, he forgets that it's a podcast. You know what I'm saying? It's easy in defense of Adolfo. I mean, he's sitting in his office. You know what I'm saying? He's talking into the computer. He kind of forgets that it's not just talking to Ben, whatever. Yeah. So then he does the Dave Chappelle bit. Pretty.
Yeah.
Adolfo Mondragon.
Hey, come back, Adolfo. We love to have you again. All right, the following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Sam Charles, and this is another Eddie Gate update. Yes. Oh. Another Eddie Gate update, 2 in 1 show. It says here, Chicago police officer who was assigned to former Superintendent Eddie Johnson's security detail has filed a sexual abuse and harassment lawsuit against the former top cop. A news conference about the lawsuit filed by Officer Cynthia Donald against Johnson and the city is scheduled for Thursday afternoon. The 5-count lawsuit filed late Wednesday in Cook County Circuit Court claims while Johnson was her boss, he forced Donald to perform sex acts in the city of Chicago, and Mayor Lightfoot retaliated against her when the allegations against Johnson came to light. Donald also claims Johnson damaged or destroyed evidence on his cell phone sought by the Office of Inspector General. And here, Donald was a central figure in the events that ultimately led to Lightfoot to fire Johnson last year, a month before he was scheduled to retire. So, yeah, more Eddie Gate updates here.
Yeah, obviously the first I've heard of this. I'm just shaking my head, D. This thing isn't going. It's gonna be like Smollett Gate. How long has Smollett Gate been going on now?
Oh, dude,
3 years?
No, not 3 years. We're going almost 2. Almost 2 years.
Wait, time out. When did? Oh, you're right. It was January of 2018.
19.
Wow. Are you sure?
Yep. Because you were fired at the end of 2018.
You know what? You're right.
And Smollett Gate happened in 2019.
Right. Yeah. It's just, you know what? I've exaggerated. You're right. I said corrected. It'll only be 2 years in January, so not that long. 2 years, not that long.
Hey, everybody.
Good point, young man.
Make sure you follow us on social media at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can send us an email, bennyjshow@gmail.com. Leave your name and where you're from if you would like us to read your comment on the program. Just helps. Also, you can leave us a voicemail, 708-658-4788. That number again, 708-658-4788. Call the Ben Joravsky Show. We're not going to answer, but leave us a voicemail. There's a good chance we will play your voicemail on the program. Also, too, I always forget to mention this. If you're in the car listening to the radio around the Bridgeport area tomorrow around noon, the Ben Joravsky Show will be on Lumpen Radio, so check us out there at noon. I think I'm going to post our 7 p.m. drop with David Ferris as the interview, so it'll be on Lumpen Radio at noon tomorrow, Friday, and every Friday, right after the Klonsky brothers.
Yeah, right after the Klonsky brothers. Mike Klonsky sent me a nice note. Thank you very much, Mike, about my dad passing. All right, D, good job as always. I want to thank Adolfo Mondragon for being an outstanding guest. And I want to thank the man, the myth, the legend, the pride and joy of Alton, Illinois, without whom the show would be possible. Back home in Alton, as Adolfo can tell you, they call him Dr. D. Give yourself a raise, take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Face coverage. Face coverage.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine.